Hello there and welcome back to the AgostinhoZinga show with your host, AgostinhoZinga, and this is episode number 726. It should be 726. If it's not 726, then I do greatly apologize for it not being the episode that I'm named, but I'm hoping it is 726. And if it isn't 726, then of course I do greatly apologize. But big up everybody who's tuning in live, and big up everybody that's going to be tuning in or listen to this after the fact on the recording side of things. Usually I don't do these Tazs shows live. I try to keep that for the random show, which is where I cover all the comedy stuff. But I thought, you know what? I've got some leftover tabs I need to kind of get through. So why not kind of steamroll through some of these topics and stuff via the stream? Yeah, big up Jared Melerick. Appreciate you, bro. Big up. Welcome and being a Tazs supporter. I appreciate you very, very much for joining in and becoming a supporter of this lovely little old crazy nonsense poxy stream as we love to do. So big up you, much appreciated, much appreciated. So it's been a bit of a jam-packed weekend. Loads of things have happened. I'm going to be covering a lot of that later on in a couple of hours in the random show. So if you want to hear all that kind of comedy stuff, then please kind of tune back later. I've got a scheduled stream for that, so you should be able to see that on my channel and then check that out for all the comedy stuff. And I think I've got a list of topics in the description too, so you can see what I'm going to be talking about in that pod that's going to be coming very, very soon. But for now, we're going to dive on deep into the cultural side of things, because you know what? I am that kind of cultural type of guy in it. That's what I basically am. So first things first, I want to mention, most of you won't care because it's stuff that's only kind of really interests me, and clearly because this is a podcast, I'm going to start talking about the things that I'm interested in. Berghain 19th birthday is happening, right? It's going to be coming up very, very soon. It's happening in December, and I'm pretty sure it's December the 9th if I'm going to be double checking my listings here. And there's a lot of conversation online that I've seen via the Berghain community subreddit and a few other places and stuff, such as the Telegram, which they've got a really good Telegram group actually. If you search for it, I think it's just called like Berlin members or something. I forgot what it's called, but there's a few of them on Telegram. If you're not on Telegram, definitely jump on there. There's a really good few communities on there, and I think it's great because the people there give a shit and the mods take care of the little community. So there's people that come in and spam and do random stuff on there and post some very disturbing pictures and get the fucking, the group nuked. But usually they do a really good job of kind of keeping everything streamlined. There's actually a really good one, I forgot the name of it, is that it's only open or only allows you to post publicly on there from like Friday to Sunday or Friday to Monday, which is obviously the days that Berghain's open. And there's some others that are open all the time, but they're pretty good. But regardless, anyway, there's a lot of conversation online that I've seen about this 19th birthday for Berghain that's coming very, very soon, around people being very worried, very, very worried and perturbed about the flipping queue system, right? Because if any of you guys have been there, or if you haven't been there, Berghain is obviously one of the most famous clubs in the world, and obviously when it's a special celebration like a 19th birthday, the demand to get in there is crazier than it usually is, and the queues are insane. Like the last one I went to, which was a Sylvester, which happened I'm gonna say that might have been, I think it was basically a Sylvester's like their kind of New Year's Eve, New Year's Day thing, but I think they missed out on the year that I went because of COVID, so they kind of did it the following they did it middle of the month, basically middle of the year, around June or something like that, and I went to go to one, right? And that was the first time I've been to a special event at Berghain for a long time, and I forgot what it was like. And obviously I got myself kind of caught in the queue that was like 4+ hours, and that's the longest I've ever had to wait in that place. And it helped that I wasn't really looking at my phone. I was just kind of, I had some random playlist playing on my phone. I wasn't really checking the time too much. I was just kind of perusing around the environment, talking to randoms in the queue. So I wasn't that aware of the time. I think if I was aware of the time, I probably would have left, but I don't think I would have anyway, because naturally that queue as well isn't, I've not been in crazy long ones, but I've been in ones that you have to wait for a while. And the problem with that queue is that you're usually quite near the front, or you can see the door, because there's no, there's nothing kind of blocking your path unless you're like queuing around the corner. You can always see where the end of the queue is, or you can always see at the front of the queue, sorry. So you always have this slight hope that you're going to be near it. So I was queuing there for 4 hours, and obviously I ended up getting in, which was obviously great, but it's not something I want to repeat. But one thing that happens quite often during special events is that people like to queue cut. And I'm not too sure about you guys, but I'm not a very violent person. I'm not a very angry person. I think I'm quite even keeled for the most part. But one thing that will make me fly off the handle and go crazy and kick a baby down the street or punch a woman in the face or throw a handicapped person off their fucking wheelchair is if they cut the queue. If they cut the queue in front of me, I don't care if you're disabled, if you're a child, if you're a woman, I'm going to put my hands on you. I'm going to get very angry. I'm going to get very violent. I'm going to get very shouty, and I'm going to do some things that will probably, land me in prison in some regard. I just cannot stand it. And I don't know what it is about me with queues. It's my little trigger. I don't know if it was because of the years of being a sneakerhead and being into Supreme and being into Bape, where I had to queue outside of stores. And, I'm not sure about you guys, but when I was younger and I was going to all these stores to queue up, there was like a little group of guys who were like a bit older than us. At the time, we thought they were like 50 or something, but they were probably only in their late 20s. But they were older than us and they had more connections to the store. Like they knew the people inside that worked there, sorry. They obviously spent more money than us, so they got preferential treatment. But they would always come in like big timers at the queue. So we'll be queuing outside of these stores, out of these shops for like, sometimes 2 days. We'll be going to McDonald's to get fucking breakfast for each other, doing the breakfast runs. We'll be fucking shivering in the cold in fucking tents and sleeping bags overnight, staying up the whole night, not sleeping, all this nonsense, only to have all these older dudes, these older quote unquote cooler guys rock up in the morning and just jump the queue, right? It used to always fucking drive me crazy. And I think that kind of PTSD from that queue days of queuing up for sneakers and hype streetwear stuff has now carried over. And now in my adult life, when I'm going to clubs and stuff, the last thing I want is for some kethead, right? Some fucking GHB bunny, right? Some fucking ket monster, some coke fiend, some MDMA fucking wally to jump in front of me while I've been waiting patiently outside in the fucking cold for fucking 4+ hours. And it's going to be even worse. This one I'm going to on the 9th of December. Usually the months of, the months between like, let's say September all the way until February are usually the coldest months in Berlin, right? Or in Germany, I guess overall. It's bitterly cold. Probably even more so here in London. The cold actually cuts to your bones. And usually if it's colder, you don't get a lot of tourists, so the crowd will probably be a lot better than it usually is for a kind of celebration thing, because usually celebrations happen in the summer. Usually in the summer, a lot of tourists go there, a lot of the people from out of town or whatnot go there too. There's a lot of like pent up, like, oh my god, this is the best party ever type of thing. A lot of like Project X type of vibes, too much expectation, too much entitlement, just too much, and it ends up not being a good night. Most likely this will be a really good party. That's a really bittersweet thing about this. All the hype that people are having around it is justified because the lineup isn't too bait. It's not full of like, all the fucking bait people that you see on TikTok and Twitter and shit. It's a kind of heads lineup. It's different rooms, different type of vibes. So it's going to definitely, all 4 rooms actually fucking open, right? From Berghain, Panorama Bar, Hale to Saul, all fucking open. So it's definitely going to be a barnstormer, but keep your head on a swivel, because people are going to be cutting the queue on this evening more than you've ever seen in your life. So what I advise for you, if it's going to be your first time going there, my advice for you personally would be this. The people at the front, the bouncers, they're not really looking what's going on in the queue. They're keeping an eye on who's at the front of them in their line of sight, but they're not really paying too much mind what's happening at the back. So they're not going to help you. You have to help yourself. And your other ravers around you, the people in front and behind you, most of them don't really care what's going on behind or in front of them. They don't care what's going on behind or in front of them. They just want to make sure they get in, so they're all keeping quiet. They're all trying to pretend they're not high. They're all trying to clench their jaws to make sure it's not swinging. They're making sure their eyes are not dilated. Pupils aren't dilated properly too much, whatever. So you have to look after yourself. And what I say about looking after yourself is this. Don't allow anyone to cut in front of you. If that means you have to get into a shouting match with somebody, do it. The bouncers aren't going to care. And if they do come over and ask you, hey, what's going on? Why are you guys shouting? You can calmly explain to them that this mongoloid tried to cut in front of you in the queue. You should honestly say that. You should never let anybody cut in front of you in any way, shape or form. Personally, for me, I feel like that kind of affront is too much. I can't take it, especially if you've been like, I'm a patient person. I'm never going to ask somebody, hey, can I go in front of you? I'm going there on my own volition. I'm queuing up because I want to go to the club. So I'm already embarrassing myself as a man, as a human being, by leaving a warm home, by leaving my warm country, my nice life, to travel however many distance I am, however many hours to go and stand in front of a dumb nightclub, right? It's already redacted, right? It's already redacted. It's already super redacted that I'm doing this in the first place. Don't then now make the situation far worse by jumping in front of the queue and acting as if my presence doesn't fucking matter. No, that's not cool. Let's all be friends here. If you came in late, you stand at the back, you stand behind me, just kind of obey the laws of the queue. But you should never ever let anybody cut in front of you. And I've seen so many things happen. I've legitimately had shouting matches with people in the queue, like screaming at each other. And it's been quite embarrassing when you scream at each other about a queue thing. You tell the person to go fuck off at the back, and then you see them inside. You know, it's a bit awkward, don't get me wrong, but I'm not letting anybody jump in front of me in the queue. I'm just not going to allow it. I just cannot allow it. There's something in my body, in my physiology that just doesn't allow it, bro. I just can't do it. So I guarantee, so for you, if you're new or if you're going to go, or if you're not new and you've been before, I would say if you can't get into a shouting match with somebody and tell them to go fuck off to the back of the queue, the least you could do is a little silent war. I've done this once before. If somebody jumps in front of you, just silently walk in front of them. Most likely, if you do that, the person that you both walked in front of is going to say something now. They can be, oi, what's going on? And you can calmly turn around and say, this person walked in front of me, so I'm walking in front of them. Then turn back around and let the person walk in front of you have an argument with the person that was in front of them. That's it's a little bit of a, you know, it's a bit 4D chessy, that move, but it can work sometimes. Or you can just do what I do sometimes, where I just adopt the big black bouncer mode and I just start swinging from side to side. Like dark side feel, right? On the XY axis. I just start swinging from side to side. I start fucking, you know, punching the palm of my hand on the inside, you know, acting like as if I'm like a bit twisted, you know? There's something wrong with me, as if I'm gonna snap any moment, right? That black man rage. I just start doing that, and then sometimes I can intimidate the atmosphere around you and make people think you're a bit scary. That can work sometimes too. But whatever tactics you can do to make it, you know, to get it over and done with, do so. Because the last thing you want is to be waiting all this time in Berghain, right? Imagine you're waiting outside to get inside this fucking exclusive club you want to get into. It's hard to get in there. Entry's fucking, oh yeah, big up Fashion Roadman, just seeing you. Wagwan G. Big up the chat as well, everybody in here. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. Make sure you smash the like button down below. That'd be greatly appreciated if you're enjoying the stream. Thank you. Just imagine you kind of standing outside, right? You're standing in the queue, you're doing your thing, and you imagine that you don't get in. It's worse if someone jumps in front of you because they're going to make you wait outside longer and you're still not going to get in. So I would prefer it to speed up the process. So I'm going to say to you, hey, don't jump in front of me. I want to find out quickly if I'm going to get in or not, but I don't want you to add to my time outside. That's another rationale for standing up for yourself. But I do recommend people do, because I've got a feeling this coming up fucking Berghain is going to be really crazy with a queue. People are going to be going nuts. So I want people to be prepared for it. I want people to be aware of what's going to happen. I also want to give you some advice in terms of standing up for yourself. And I also want to say, for the most part, even if you're scared, oh, if I stand up for myself, the bouncers are going to see, they're going to chuck me out. Trust me, they're not watching. They're not watching, they're not paying attention. There's too much things going on in that club for them to be paying attention to every little microaggression or little cutting thing that's going on. It's not really their responsibility. It's really ours, to be fair. They shouldn't be going up and down the line policing people. We should be already grown up enough to kind of respect the queue, you know? But we shouldn't be jumping in front of people. But I guarantee you, if you see me in that queue and someone jumps in front of me, it's going to be a war. I'm going to be going UFC on that person. I swear to God, it's going to get crazy. But I'm hoping it doesn't, because I just want to go and party. I want to see who I want to see, because like I said before, the lineup is fucking crazy. I actually prefer the fucking Pano room lineup to the main room. I think the Pano lineup is fucking bonkers. But the queue situation is going to be nuts. And I pray for everybody that's going. I pray for every single person that's going. Talking about praying and talking about people that are going. Maybe this is just me. Hey, maybe just me. Am I the only person that gets a little bit annoyed when people online post these like public declarations, these public notices and posters of like, hey, I lost this thing. Can you guys help me, please? Especially when it involves a nightclub. Like, for me personally, as a man, right, as a dude, as a patron, as a raver, if you go outside and you happen to lose something during your fucking drug-fueled, booze-filled evening of dancing from side to side, that's kind of your responsibility. That's kind of your own fucking, you know, it's your own fault. It's no one else's fault that you lost your keys, you lost your hat, you lost your scarf, you forgot to get your umbrella, whatever else you fucking dropped, or wallet. That is on you. You have to just take that on the chin and keep it moving. There are occasions where you can maybe go to the lost and found, dignified, right? You can go online because most clubs have a little lost and find section. You go on their website, you find out what the lost and found is, you find out what time it's open, or if you have to email them, you email them. But these public declarations like this from the DJ Arm, who I'm a big fan of on Innervisions, posting that he lost his necklace whilst he was playing in Berghain. It's like, bro, if this necklace has this much sentimental value to you, why are you wearing it when you're DJing in a nightclub anyway? And if it is that sentimental, why are you not looking after it with your life? That like the life depends on it. When you're in a place like fucking Berghain, where literally hundreds of thousands of people are passing through those doors throughout the entirety of its time being open, maybe even millions, who knows, in terms of the total amount of people that are going in and out all the time. I just find these public posts really odd and really bizarre. It's almost like you're putting the responsibility on you're okay to go outside and get crazy and do what you need to do and lose your things. And then when you lose it, you're putting the onus on the punters, the ravers, the regular people to go find your thing or to be good Samaritans and hand it back in again. It's odd. And here's the caption. It says, lost in Berghain Panorama Bar moment. I'm for Innervision. I had a great night opening Panorama Bar last Saturday. I like how to say he had a great night. Okay, cool, sure. Unfortunately, I lost my chain. A personalized, customized item of priceless value to me. If anyone knowing of its whereabouts, helping me to retrieve it, I'm happy to reward fairly. What does a fair reward mean? So you lost something that is of priceless value to you through your own, what you called? Through your own lack of attention, whatever care it may be. And then you're saying that you're only willing to pay a fair reward. What's a fair reward? If this is priceless, you should be saying, I'll pay anything within reason to get this back or something. Not a fair reward. Come on, bro. Please send a message when you have it or have helpful leads. Thank you, Kristian. And again, I'm a big fan of Arm, aka Kristian. I like the guy, but I find these public declaration things so odd and so weird. If you're going to go get crazy and shit, go get crazy, but then also be responsible with your items. Why are you asking the regular punters to fucking find it for you? You know what I mean? It doesn't really work for me in that regard. Yeah, exactly. Tommy the Get Back says the comment here, which I was thinking, it's almost slightly like a little bit of a humble brag, isn't it? I wouldn't say in this case it's a humble brag because it's a DJ. Again, he could have lost it any number of ways. He could have legitimately been playing, was a bit sweaty or felt a little bit constrained, took it off, put it on the side of the booth, and then somebody took it. That could be a thing. Most likely, I could imagine a scenario where he was fucking, maybe doing a couple of fucking, Colombian lines with a nice young lady or man. And then in the exchange of that happy-go-lucky time, hey, oh my God, I love your chain. Do you love it? Oh my God, yeah. Why don't you try it on and look how cute on you? You put it on somebody and then that person goes missing. That could be one of the solutions. One of the scenarios, sorry. There's plenty of reasons where this could easily be lost, right? Fair enough. I understand it. But surely you should be keeping an eye on your things much better and not, putting a burden or responsibility of finding it onto punters and shit. Like, it is what it is. And also, I just find it odd, just, these public things. Because I've seen people post stuff about, like, scarves that they've lost in Berghain. It's like, bro, a scarf? Don't get me wrong. Someone might hand it into Lost and Found. Cool. Good luck on that. But publicly asking people on Reddits and on forums and on Twitter and stuff to find a scarf that you lost, like, come on, man. You lost a scarf. If this is me, I just take the L. I lost the thing. It is what it is. My bad. I fucked up. Next time I'm not going to fuck it up again. Next time I'm going to wear a fucking carabiner to put my fucking keys, how you pronounce that word is, to latch my keys on. Maybe next time I'll have like a wallet change for my fucking wallet. Wherever it may be, I'll take the responsibility of losing it and make sure it doesn't happen again. But I'm not going to be online crying and saying, oh my God, I lost this thing. Please help me. It's it's priceless value to me, but I'm only going to offer you a fair amount. It's like, bro, come on, man. Come on. It really is weird. And to be honest, maybe it's come from the scenario or my personal experience of like, I've never ever had things ever handed in. I can't think of one time. No, actually I can think of one time. The one time it was when I dropped my, what was it? Was it a camera? No, my keys actually, I think that must have been. But I went back straight away. I think I was actually leaving actually. So I was leaving the club and I went to go get my bike, and luckily I would have, because if I didn't have my bike with me, I probably wouldn't have noticed I lost my keys. So I went to go get my bike. I didn't have my keys because my bike lock keys are on the same thing with my fucking house keys. And then I quickly ran back into the club and I found my keys. But obviously the way I found them is this. When I was walking in, when you walk in and go to clubs, they usually make you take, you know, everything out of your pockets like you're going through a fucking airport. And I guess I must have just not picked up the keys when I went inside. And then obviously somebody put them to the side, so I was able to find them really quickly in that regard. But still, if I didn't find them, I'm not going to put a post up on my Twitter or my Instagram saying, guys, I was in E1 the other weekend and I lost my keys. They look like every other set of keys out there, but mine are really special. If you can find them, please give them to me. Like, come on, man. Get over yourself, really. It's not that deep. Like, if you lose your thing, you lose your thing. It's just to take the L and keep it moving. This idea that people, I don't know, maybe I operated with the mindset that, you know, I'm in the glass half empty type of thing, and I just think most people are fucking thieves. I just, you know, I've had people still skipping ropes for me. Like, I've just recently on my bike, I had some fucking idiot take off my backlight of my bike. Like, it was like a £5 light that I bought from Amazon. Right, they just, you know, a bit of a violation because they touched my fucking bicycle, but they literally took the back, you know, the rear light from the red light thing off my fucking bike. I was like, shit, someone actually stole this £5 Amazon light. I mean, it's not even worth much, it's whatever. So people are hungry out here, innit? People need things. Someone see a scarf, they might be on the way home too. They might think, hold on, I'll use this person's scarf as a fucking thing to keep myself warm, or to keep my head from getting wet or shit. Or they might see your umbrella and use it. They might see your keys and think, you know what, I like his keychain, I'm going to take that. Like, people just take things. So this idea that everyone's going to return something, especially a necklace like this, because this actually, you know, for objectively speaking, it's a nice necklace, right? It's got this nice links on it. It's got these cool little gems, connections on it, right? These little awkward shapes, right? All these little rough shapes and shit. It looks fairly done nice, to be fair. I wouldn't be surprised if it was some sort of designer thing. It looks rather nice. I think most people would actually love it. So it's like, you know, expecting people to hand this stuff in is kind of ridiculous. If it does get handed in, cool. But come on, just take the L. It is what it is. Next time you make, you know, you learned a lesson, don't lose stuff in clubs. Simple as that, really. It's not that hard. But hey, maybe I'm the one that's heartless. Maybe I'm the one that's heartless. Who bloody knows? Next on the list, we need to talk about Drake's album, Scary Hours 3. Scary Hours 3. Now, on the surface, the one thing that I was disappointed about was the fact that he did that thing that everyone does now. When you put out an EP or you put out a deluxe or whatever, you drop the entire album again on the DSPs. And I don't know about you guys, maybe it's different on Spotify, but I use mostly Apple Music. When you add a song from Apple Music, no, when they do that on Apple Music, for instance, like the regular album, it kind of fucking disappears from the listings. You don't see it anymore. All you see is a deluxe. Unless you've got the regular on your phone saved, when you search for all the dogs, all you will get is a deluxe now. You won't get the regular version without the deluxe on it. So you basically have to download or add both albums. You know, you basically have to have 2 albums on there and then maybe individually delete the tracks like I did. So I had to add For the Dog Scary Hours edition and then remove all the tracks from 1 to, I think, to 26 or something, right? I think it's 1 to 26. No, it's 1 to 23. I deleted 1 to 23 tracks and then kept the 6 that he put out new. And that's the only thing that was kind of annoying. I hate that kind of fobbing of the game. You know, that kind of fiddling of the stats and the streams thing that everyone does is fucking annoying. If you're going to put out an EP, just put it out by itself without regurgitating the same tunes again to run up the streams. It's just fucking annoying. But I get it. It works, so it is what it is. That aside, that 6-track EP, Scary Hours 3, right? That addition that he added might be some of the best Drake work I've heard in a long time. It might be his best stuff he's put out in a very, 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 very long time. It was so refreshing, so amazing to just hear him just rap really well for 6 tracks straight. Right, minimal harmonizing and singing, just him going bar for bar for bar for bar, verse for verse for verse on every single track. And I don't necessarily think I ever even have a favorite. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe I would say, if you had to put gun to my head, maybe Wickman and Evil Ways might be 2 of my favorites, but I think they all go super, 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 super hard. Obviously, in terms of an interesting story arc, I think the stories about my brother is an incredible track. It's such a great way to like diss someone like a Joe Budden, but then not actually diss him, because I guess the premise of this track is him going through this entire story arc of, you know, some of his guys that he's known who have kind of been done dirty by guys, and that's what turned him into, I guess, a dog. But then in a roundabout way, he kind of insinuates that this is a Joe Budden story, because if you know anything about Joe Budden, you'd know that he used to date that girl called Tahiri. And I think that was, you know, he always kind of mentions and says that she was like one of his real true loves. He proposed to her, all this sort of shit. So they had a very complicated up and down sort of like, you know, history and past, whatever. And if I'm not mistaken, when they broke up, whenever, you know, they broke up a number of times, but one of the hardest ones to take was when they broke up and she ended up hooking up with Kevin Durant. Is it Kevin Durant? Oh no, James Harden. Sorry, that's it. James Harden, not Kevin Durant. James Harden. She ended up hooking up with James Harden, the beard. And you can imagine what that will do to a male, you know, to a man's ego, especially in America, those type of dudes, right? When your ex-girlfriend ends up dating one of the hottest NBA stars out here who's known to be, you know, a literal stick man. So that probably didn't really resonate or kind of sit well with him at that time. And obviously Joe Budden got a hold of this information and wrapped it into, I think, kind of into the story about my brother, which was also really good. Red Bottom was a stellar way to kind of introduce what he was going to say. I think he went probably the hardest on Red Button. Maybe Either Ways probably was another one too, but he went so hard on Red Button. Legitimately one of my favorite, I think, Drake verses of maybe all time. I'm not gonna lie, like this opening verse is so good. I swear to God. The most, I've read here from Genius, the most decorated competition decimated. My drive is dedicated, your drive is designated. Niggas got you on the spot, then you separated. Reasons for it speculated. We know how it escalated, rarely celebrated. Grade 11 educated. Radio is king again. Audio is king. Remember that, guys? Billboard got me regulated. Want to make it fair for you, numbers that I generated. Do right and kill everything people knew that death awaited. Taylor Swift, the only nigga that I ever rated. Oh, come on. Too good. Only one could make me drop an album just a little later. Rest of y'all I treat like you never made it. Leave your label devastated. Even when you pad the stats, period, I never hated. Even when you stab me in the back, the vest is metal plated, right? And I think when I hear that stab you in the back thing, the thing that honestly comes to mind is mostly the Julius Caesar story, right? The Julius Caesar assassination, how he was lured into that situation and essentially stabbed in the back by some of his closest and dearest. I fucking love that. I flipping love it. Trying to see a bee inside my circle like I'm getting graded. Man, all this luggage in the lobby like I'm getting traded. Every time you need me for a boost, I've never hesitated. Every time that Yeezy called a truce, he had my head inflated, thinking we gonna finally piece it up and get to levitating. Realize that everything is premeditated. That's quite a fucking tragic bar, especially being a fan of both Ye and Drake, because essentially he seems like what Drake's insinuating here is that he doesn't actually mind piecing it up with Ye, with Kanye. He actually would like them to be cordial or be friends at least, so they can actually get back to working and creating memorable musical moments, because their ongoing beef or Kanye's inability to let go of whatever drama they had and move on has really robbed us of some really great collabs between the both of them. Whether it's him, whether it's Drake writing for Ye, whether it's Ye producing a track for them, or him or them two going back to back or making a tape together, it's really it's really sad that we don't get much from them because of the current static going on. But it seems that Drake is basically saying, hey, I would actually like to be friends, but every time I try and do it, it's another scheme from Kanye to do something. So it's never real. So I'm just going to stay away from him. And, we could probably understand, especially the state that Kanye is in at the moment. He's probably not the best frame of mind to actually piece it up properly because he's got so many things going on. It continues. Everyone was good with me, then everyone expressed and faded. Ticking time bomb, they begging me to detonate it. If I press this red button, dog, everybody heaven gated. Oh, you know about Heaven's Gate, Colt. Press this red button, dog, everything forever changes. Word to M Dollar, she the only one that could have saved it. Should have hit you first, but sis, you know that shit I've taken. Niggas think I'm sweet, but I'm not a diabetic patient. Did you hear that? Niggas think I'm sweet, but I'm not a diabetic patient. No, I'll start blacking out like it's a segregation. I'll fucking double cross you niggas like it's meditation. Like, oh. This is the best version of Drake. Honestly, when he gets into, he probably doesn't like it. There's probably a part of him, I think, similar to like that Weekend interview that I always speak about, when the Weekend put out Kissland. He was talking about how his fans hated it, right? Kissland. I think that was one of the most, I think, I think that divided opinion, Kissland, amongst the Weekend fan base. And the reason why was because a lot of us kind of were in love with the Weekend because of his House of Balloons era music. So Kissland was his sort of first foray into trying to be a pop star. I remember he had mentioned in the interview when he was trying to do Kissland, because I think that's when he first started working quite heavily with Max Martin and stuff, right? That legendary pop star writer guy who writes a lot of the big hits out there. And he basically was saying that, hey, actually writing, making music, making pop music that the general public would like normie people would like, is actually harder than doing the House of Balloons type music for him. He says he could basically, make 6 different House of Balloons with his eyes closed, but actually trying to write a banger pop record that regular mums and whatever will like across the world is actually much harder of a creative challenge, of an artistic challenge. And maybe that's the same thing with Drake. Maybe Drake actually feels like he can do, this Scary Hours 3 with his eyes closed. Because if you believe him, from what he said in the little trailer that he put out prior to the release of this tape, he said that he only wrote these lyrics in the last week. None of this has been pre-recorded. He actually made this entire thing in a week or something like that. Like, this wasn't stuff that was left behind, that was on the cutting room floor, that he forgot to add to the album. Allegedly, all this stuff was made within the last 7 days of the release of the fucking album, which is scary, right? To think that he just put this out on a whim, like, fuck it, let's go. Let's fucking go. And he delivered, to say the least. He says here, I could tell you better than I show it. It's a demonstration. I'll fucking leave you in the dirt like some vegetation. Chemicals is mixing in my brain and killing hesitation. I will fucking force a few shots like a vaccination. Niggas calling me up to cap. This is not a graduation. I will fucking put your ass on pause like I'm Pastor Mason. I'll set alarm off cause a whole evacuation. I'll get you 10 years from now like a procrastination. And I think that's most of a Pusha T diss, probably, right? Like, he's never gonna forget that diss, that beef. He's gonna get him back eventually. I'll fucking find out wherever y'all celebrating. Pull up, park my Phantom on the curb like I'm Larry David, and then we'll see who's really crazy. I don't know what this park up my Phantom on the curb is. What's this Larry David line? What they're saying here on Genius about this? I don't really. What's that? Did he do that in an episode of Larry David? I don't really know. Maybe it's something that we kind of find out. But yeah, like I said, whole absolute EP add-on full of absolute bangers. I really did enjoy listening to this when it kind of dropped eventually in the gym. I was absolutely going crazy. No, actually, I listened to this at home first. I didn't listen to the gym straight away. And obviously, I kind of carried this over into the gym. It was only like, if I'm not mistaken, once you take away all the other tracks, it's about 35 minutes length, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely one of my favorites. And then the other one that I really liked on the album is Wickman. I think, is this produced by Conductor too? Let me actually see the listings here on Genius. Is this a Conductor B or Alchemist? Who did this? Oh, Alchemist. So Alchemist produced this one. What's the other ones? Produced by Vinyls and Boy Wonder for Evil Ways. You Broke My Heart was done by Vinyls. And then I'm guessing Red Button, is that done by Conductor? No. Oh, really? Red Button was done by Lil Yachty and a person called Overcast. That's pretty fucking cool. Conductor did Stories by My Brother, and then The Shoes Fit was done by Over. So Lil Yachty produced 2. Again, this is why people need to put some respect on Lil Yachty's name. People were acting as if like the Lil Yachty's inclusion in Drake's creative process was the reason why they didn't like the previous album, For the Dogs. But clearly it's showing that maybe he just didn't like the album. It was just an excuse to hate on Lil Yachty, because he came through and produced 2 of the 6, or co-produced 2 of the 6 records on here. And 2 of them are 2 of the strongest records on there also. So you can definitely can't say that he is, that he is a negative influence on him. But clearly one of the best ones for sure was Evil Ways with J. Cole. I think the reason why this was really impressive was because, having listened to J. Cole's interview with Lil Yachty on his show, I think it's called Safe Space. It's on YouTube. It's a podcast that he does with his friend Mitch. It was a really good interview. One of maybe the better J. Cole interviews that I've seen. It always makes a big difference when an artist of J. Cole's caliber is interviewing with another artist. You just get a far better interview, especially because J. Cole is far older than Yachty. So he obviously approaches it in a more of a mentor, big brother type of role thing. So it ends up being a really awesome conversation because it turns into basically a mentorship thing, and we're just flies on the wall listening in. So it was a really cool interview. But one of the things that came out from that interview was J. Cole mentioning the Kendrick relationship and the collaboration and the rumored tape that they were going to put out that never came out. And J. Cole basically saying, hey, we don't really have any music out there that hasn't been put out there that's worth people listening to. We're both really busy, but if we do lock in, it'll be really good, but we have to make it real. For real, it has to be probably, a lot of work has to go into make it work. And it reminded me how good they sound together. But hearing Drake and J. Cole go back to back, Kendrick, doing his own thing at the moment, I'm starting to feel like I might want to see a Drake and J. Cole collaboration mixtape before I see a Kendrick and J. Cole one, to be honest, because they sound really good together when they're going back to back. Like this Evil Ways song is just so good. Seeing them trading bars one for the other is just fucking amazing. It starts off with, yeah, I got some evil ways, even through the glasses you could see the gaze. To find your way up to the top, this shit's gonna be a maze. Volkswagen shit, the way I'm running Beatles plays. Come on, bro. Drake just spazzed out another one. J. Cole comes in. Volkswagen shit, the way I'm running these Beatle plays. J. Cole comes in here. Yeah, and we link it like we free the slaves. I conquered hell, walked the veil, and set my feet ablaze. My heart hardens every year like sneakers that Adidas made. I never did the VMAs, I'm not in need of praise. Like, come on, bro. 2 bars already, and you're like, okay, cool. All praise to the born sinner, Jesus slaves. Born sinner, like the little, the J. Cole kind of entendre there. My brother's running through the 6 like they're Green Berets, beefing with the block that's 500 feet away. Wheel of Fortune shit, the way they say they need a K. Come on. Nuh-oh, I need a raise and a safe to stash these free Olays. Times were hard, I watched my mama robbing Paul just to get Peter paid, and now my paper folded like when teachers don't want the classmates to see your grade. Time is spending now. I see the grays poking out of this beard, but it's weird because I feel like I ain't even age. Y'all see the rage, feet firmly planted on these precious flowers I've been handed. Match me be the vase. Anyway, I'm not going to go too much into it. The bars are crazy. Probably some of Drake's best work. People are suggesting that this is the consequence of Joe Budden going after him and saying what he said about Scary Hours 3. Possibly, I think so. But I don't think it's more so him trying to prove. I think it's more so him maybe feeling a little bit disrespected. He probably thinks, hey, I'm taking chances. I'm out here. I'm one of the top artists out here. I still release basically every other year. I'm doing collaborations. I'm doing singles. I'm doing features. I haven't disappeared, because you mentioned it again in that skit about people like, I think Drake's got a big bone to pick about people who are, at the top of their game but decide to kind of purposely do the whole disappearing thing. It kind of really does rub him up the wrong way, because I guess he kind of puts a lot of credence in still being quote unquote active. So he probably thought of it as quite disrespectful that he's the one artist that is really active, especially in that level, and he's the one that's being scrutinized the most, and his intentions are being questioned or whatever it may be, and he's probably just having fun of it at this time because he just knows that at the top of his game, he's probably not going to fail anytime soon. So this addition that he added was probably just a reminder, like I think I mentioned on Twitter before, like it's like that meme, or it's like that legendary interview of Jose Mourinho where he was at Man United about respect. You know what I mean? Put some respect to my name. I know you might think you have recency bias of what you know about me, but remember, I'm still that guy. I'm still him. And I think this is Drake's reminder, more so less so as a proof to like a Budden person, like a Joe Budden. Hey, I'm still here. Blah, blah, blah. I think it felt more like a, hey, let me just remind you guys that I'm still that guy. And I think he did it. That's 6 out of 6. That's a banger. There is maybe a counter argument to that. Some fans could probably sit there and say, is he being lazy with the previous ones? Because this obviously sounded like he was hungry. It sounded like he had the point to prove, a reminder to put out there. So maybe there is a point to be had if you say, oh, was the previous projects just a cash grab? Were they just him going through the motions? Does he not care about his fans? Is he not giving us his best work? Maybe that is part of it, but I don't think that's fair. I just think, after a certain level, once Drake's basically won it all, achieved it all, it's probably hard to find the motivation to kind of keep you going anyway. So maybe it's not even like a conscious thing of like not being motivated to the top of your game. Maybe it's just something that you just do because, you know, you find it easy, you put it out, people lap it up, it is what it is. But then when you do have a lot of people maybe criticizing you, maybe you want just to remind them that, hey, I'm only doing this for fun. If I get serious, this is what it's about. I don't want to do it serious because I don't care, but this is what level I'm on if I do get serious. So that was a good reminder to put out there. And for me, you know, being the kind of person that always says, oh, he doesn't have a one classic album guy, because I still think Drake has a lot of really good projects that are good in patches, but they're not the most cohesive. I think this might be one of his most cohesive projects he's ever put out. Legitimately, I know it's only 6 tracks, I get it, but you know, add 4 more tracks onto this. He legitimately, this might be one of the most cohesive projects that he's fucking put out in a very, very, very long time. So big up Drake for pointing it out there. Appreciated, never, ever, ever ignored. And I can't wait to hear what else he puts out for us, especially going forward. And maybe he takes a break from this as well. This might be a good point to actually go on a proper break and just relax and chill and then see how it goes from there. So yeah, loved it. Loved every bit about that project. And of course, most of you know where that is, where you can find it. For the Dog Scary Hours edition. It was actually called Scary Hours Free, but I guess now it's not. It's been kind of changed to Scary Hours edition. Unfortunately, you have to re-download or re-add all the other fucking tracks on there to listen to it again. But I did the fucking, you know, the nerdy thing and individually delete all the other tracks. I already got them on the other album and listened to the other 6, and I was really, really happy. So big up Drake for that one. Big up Drake for that one. Okay, moving on from there. Let's quickly go into this. Oh yeah, we've got to talk about this as well. We have to talk about this. So let me bear with me a second as I get some of these stuff off the screen. So I think, yo, big up Stinger Guru, appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat, my friend.
I'd if you spoke on it yet.
Yeah, yes.
Thoughts on ASAP Rocky and PUMA collab?
Yeah, it's coming up, my friend. Big up Stinger Guru. I've got that on the docket. It's coming up, my friend. The PUMA and ASAP Rocky thing is coming up, my friend. I've got it on the docket. So let's continue on here. Thank you for the super chat, though, Stinger. Good, appreciate you, brother. So let's continue. So most of you will know the drama that's been going on with Diddy. Eventually, yes, I think the other day, maybe 2 days ago, Cassie officially put in a civil lawsuit regarding the years of abuse and alleged rape that she suffered at the hands of P. Diddy, which kind of broke the internet for a brief period of time. And then quite soon after, basically the next day, now courtesy of New York Times, it says Cassie settles lawsuit accusing Sean Combs of rape and abuse. So literally the next day, Diddy basically settled outside the court amicably. And I think from what initially we heard on the first lawsuit, that when the lawsuit was initially put forward, I think the figure that they had was like 30 million. So Cassie was basically suing, you know, Diddy for 30 mil. And, you know, it's probably within reason to believe that she probably got near that figure. Some people out there are a bit disappointed. I think I saw a lady from Danity Kane, a former artist from Danity Kane, that was speaking, and she, or maybe making for the band, I don't know what it is, but she's associated with Bad Boy, and she was a bit upset because essentially Diddy's not going to be held accountable for his actions because now legally the matter's kind of over and he's kind of, you know, they've kind of come to some kind of conclusion. And I think her comment was something along the lines of, you know, it's always money above accountability. But I think with this being a civil suit, the aim was always money anyway. The aim was always money and obviously to expose the person because you're putting it out there. Because I think most people, myself included, you've probably heard rumors of Diddy maybe being a bit freaky and whatnot, but you never thought it was probably this deep. I didn't anyway. I never thought that he was all this time abusing Cassie and shit. Maybe there might be a suggestion of grooming. That might be something that you play into. But again, what is really grooming, especially in the entertainment industry, you know, it seems like everybody takes advantage of everybody in some way, shape or form. Just because it's an age thing and it's a male and female doesn't make it different. I'm not really too sure, but it seems like that whole industry in Hollywood or entertainment industry or music industry is an industry that's basically steeped in exploitation and manipulation, whatever it may be. And some people use it to their advantage, weirdly enough, which is incredibly toxic, but it's hard with the whole grooming thing. So I didn't really think that much of it. And of course, there's people questioning, Diddy's sexuality and stuff, but I never thought it was as deep as, physical abuse and sexual abuse, emotional abuse and rape and shit. I never thought it'd ever go that far. I always thought, okay, maybe he might be a freaky guy. He's a bit weird, especially with, his tendency to like not want to like have a conventional relationship, always dating these random young ladies and having loads on the go. I think when he was dating Young Miami from City Girls, he must have got another lady pregnant as well, and all this sort of stuff at the same time when you're like in your 60s, 50s, you already got a million kids. Just a bizarre way to kind of live your life. But again, lifestyle choice, it is what it is. But I never thought it was go as far as the rape and the abuse thing. So even if you are somebody that's kind of looking at Cassie like sideways and thinking, man, why do you accept the money? You kind of have to think about it from her point of view of like, now it's finally out there how abusive and how downright evil Diddy is, and she also got the bag for it. I think that's mission accomplished. You expose somebody who not a lot of people had any idea what he did, or maybe were intimidated and scared to really talk about the things that he did out in the open. Everybody's sort of aware of it. I honestly think that's probably the best thing in this situation, because I mentioned it previous times. I think one of the most egregious things that happen in these situations, especially within industries and whatnot, is less so about the monsters like Diddy, the monsters like R. Kelly, the monsters like, whoever else you can mention, the Harvey Weinsteins and stuff. I think those guys will always exist. A really disappointing and really disgusting thing, especially if you read the court documents, which I'll probably end up doing on a random show. You'll read the court documents and you'll see various accounts, or you'll see from Cassie's side, basically, saying that people from her record label, people from Diddy's camp, people from various different places were pressuring her to do certain things. That's the really disgusting side of things for me, more so than the evil person who does the act. Because I think evilness will, evil people, dark-hearted people, abusive people will always exist. The role that we play in society as regular, law-abiding, decent human beings is to call out that shit and shine a light on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and make sure that stuff doesn't happen again. But we can't turn a blind eye to it. We can't excuse it. We can't bury our head in the sand. We have to address it and call it out. And the fact that she was brave enough to call it out says a lot. And obviously, because it's Cassie, no one can really dispute it, because she was the only person really who was close to him in that way, in the music industry, for how much long they were together. Like, they were, according to the lawsuit, like, they were together for how long? They were together, according to a lawsuit, they were together, I think she dated her when she was like 19 or something. So her first experience, again, this is, imagine how unlucky you have to be, right? You get into the music industry with really lofty goals, with really naive notions of the industry. You're really kind of hopeful about your future, about what you can contribute to the art form, whatever it may be. And the first person you cross paths with is fucking Diddy. How fucking unlucky is that? On one side, I think it's luck, it's good luck, because he's like a music, he's a music mogul. He's responsible for all these hit records, blah, blah, blah. But he's also got all of this skeletons in his closet, all of this dark shit that he does. And that's the first person you come in contact with. It must be so horrible. So just imagine how she must have been feeling, right? And then everybody around him is complicit in the crimes. They're turning a blind eye to it. They're making excuses. They're trying to silence her. I think in one of the accounts in the court case, it says something like they threatened to basically not release her music. There was a period in time when she was suffering a lot of abuse from Diddy, physical and stuff, and getting beaten allegedly in the court documents and whatever it may be. And it was suggested to her that she should make amends with Diddy or her music wouldn't be dropping. Can you imagine that? You could never get away with that nowadays. Maybe you could, I don't know, it depends on what label you're on. Maybe if you're super desperate to make it, you'll just maybe not tell anybody. But can you imagine getting away with that sort of stuff with people nowadays? It would never ever happen, man. So let's read the article anyway, courtesy of New York Times. It says, Cassie settles lawsuit accusing Sean Combs of rape and abuse. Sean Combs, the singer, and the singer Cassie have reached a settlement just one day after she filed an explosive lawsuit accusing the hip-hop mogul of rape, numerous instances of physical abuse. In my opinion, personally, I think this is a admission of guilt. I know that legally they can't say this, and I think once you do reach these sort of resolutions, both parties sometimes do, agree on the specific wording. But I think the fact that the lawsuit was dealt with in such a manner so quickly and they reached a settlement outside of court, I'm willing to believe most likely she probably ended up with more than 30 million. And most likely, I think this is a admission of guilt. this 100% admission of guilt. There's no way if you're Diddy and you know what this is going to do. Because the thing about him, and I think the thing with most of these type of things, counterculture, whatever you may want to call it, usually I think it's less so about the person ended up in jail and prison. I think one of the best things about it is that it does expose monsters and puts what they do in the shadows in the light, because clearly this is something that he was doing for a long time. I don't even think a lot of people even knew that he was addicted to fucking Molly and shit, right? And painkillers, allegedly, right? He was getting fucking Cassie to go and fill out prescriptions and shit to get him painkillers and do Molly all day. You know, I never really assumed that. I thought maybe he might have been on Adderall or something, but I never thought he was on Molly every single day like that, right? But clearly he was of some sort of functioning addict. So I think the good thing about this is that it exposes it and puts it in the light. So these monsters can't do these things in the shadows again, because, you know, people are going to show you up. So I think that's one of the best things about this kind of post Me Too world. It's less so that, okay, let's tear this person down and make them lose their jobs. It's just more so the ability to publicly, quote unquote, shame people who enjoy doing things under the cloak of secrecy. They actually like it when people don't talk about the certain things they're doing because they can get away with it. Now you can't really get away with it because people are going to be speaking about it. Do you know what I mean? That's one thing I think is kind of maybe a benefit in this. But I definitely think this settlement is an admission of guilt, in my opinion. The parties announced on Friday evening that they had reached an agreement to resolve the case, though they disclosed no details about the terms of the settlement. The quote, "I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on the terms that I have some level of control." Cassie, whose name is Cassandra Ventura, said in a statement, "I want to thank my family, fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support." Most likely, this is probably the best, especially if you believe, which I do anyway, that she definitely did suffer some level of abuse. I think this makes a lot of sense, because what it does is that it puts this situation kind of behind you. You can actually draw a line in the sand, and you could also, like she says, step away from the situation on your terms. Because if this case goes to court, more things are going to come out in the open, and maybe there's going to be some stuff that might come out that might not paint her in the best light. Because there's some people already who are, you know, disputing her claims and wondering why does she bring it up now, and if she's just trying to look for money, whatever, right? The longer this case goes on, even if you do have a point, because the other side have to defend their client, right? The defense, they're going to obviously go out of their way to muddy the waters and to muddy her name and make her look bad in public. So you don't want all those other things to get out there, because it's not necessary. The key to the matter is just the person that abused you and raped you and stuff, and you want to get that out there. So I think this is probably the best way to go about things. It continues. In a statement, Mr. Combs said, "We have decided to resolve this matter amicably. I wish Cassie and her family all the best. Love." Disgusting. For Mr. Combs, the settlement quickly shuts down what could have been a risky and potentially embarrassing process of legal discovery, in which reams of evidence are made public, and a possible trial. And Ms. Ventura, who's already aired her accusations for a public complaint, avoids cross-examination by Mr. Combs' attorneys. In a lawsuit that drew international attention, Ms. Ventura signed to Combs' Bad Boy label in 2005 when she was 19 years old, and dated him for about a decade. Accused Mr. Combs of what she said was years of beatings, controlling behavior, and various forms of sexual abuse, including rape. In a response, a lawyer for Mr. Combs, Ben Afram, said Mr. Combs vehemently denies these accusations and outrageous allegations. The funny thing about this is the hip-hop media, the silence amongst some platforms regarding this has been quite concerning. Everybody that's out there talking about protect black women and all this sort of nonsense, when it involves someone like Diddy that has actual influence, actual power, who can actually ruin people's lives, suddenly they're all quiet. Suddenly no one's brave anymore. No one wants to stand up for the voiceless. Everyone now is saying, look, I pray for healing. That's really fucked up. It's with the courts now. Everyone's basically putting their hands up and trying to wash their hands of it. It's quite disgusting to see, to be honest. It also goes to show that these people that call themselves journalists or media figures, wherever, they have no principles, no backbone, no moral compass, nothing. If the person, you know, is cutting a good check or is a good look for your career, they're going to definitely turn the other way. According to Ms. Ventura's suit, which was filed on Thursday at the Federal Court of Manhattan, Mr. Combs assaulted her numerous times, leaving her bloodied and bruised. She said his employees sometimes took her to hotel rooms for days to recover out of the public eye. And this makes a lot of sense now thinking of it. If you are familiar with Cassie back in the day, she did have a tendency to just disappear. I don't know if you kept up to date with it. I remember there was a time in her career when she was coming up where she would just disappear for like a couple of months. So you wonder, like, where the fuck she gone? And then, of course, now this is all making a lot of sense. Whether it was, her being locked into a room doing freak offs and shit, which was always disturbing. That side of the story was really crazy. Because we all knew Diddy was freaky, but I never knew he was freaky to the point where he was, hiring male escorts to fuck Cassie and shit, watching as he jacked off in a corner. I didn't know that was kind of his vibe, but allegedly, according to Cassie, that clearly was his vibe. And now it makes sense why she was disappearing, because that sort of lifestyle sounds like somebody that likes to party. And when you like to party, there's a lot of booze, a lot of drugs involved. And sometimes the best way to do those type of things is just to kind of lock yourself away from society and do it, behind closed doors, behind curtains, and in hotel rooms, in suites and shit, really out the way, because you're getting into some really dicey shit. So that might explain some of her weird absences that kind of came out of the blue. It continues. In one of the suit's most disturbing allegations, Miss Ventura said that for years she was forced to participate in sexual encounters with a succession of male prostitutes, as Mr. Combs watched, masturbated, and recorded videos. According to the suit, Mr. Combs called these events freak-offs, and they could take a number of high-end hotels throughout the United States. Can you imagine? Because there's hotels out there that do have CCTV footage, like secretly in rooms and shit. Can you imagine the amount of hotels that probably have some of that footage somewhere? Someone somewhere definitely has some of that footage. If they've got secret cameras in places, you for sure could think someone somewhere has that footage. And I would bet, a good amount of money that Diddy probably has some of that footage himself. Even if he probably would never admit it, that footage is probably somewhere locked in some sort of safe, or maybe on his phone, and he fucking re-watches it all the time like a fucking freak. According to Miss Ventura's suit, Mr. Combs controlled nearly every aspect of her life, paying for her homes, car, clothes, and other necessities, and even had access to her personal medical records. The suit says Miss Ventura never went police because she feared he would merely give Mr. Combs another excuse to hurt her. That's a really interesting side of things, which I never thought of when it comes to control, right? Paying for somebody's life, basically by force making them indebted to you. Sort of similar to like a pimp's relationship with prostitutes, right? With these girls, quote unquote. Like you basically pay for everything. You make them totally dependent on you so they can't go anywhere else. I never really thought of that as a form of control, because nowadays girls like that because that's how to be a boss bitch. That's how to kind of trick off a nigga, all that sort of stuff, right? That's how to live the soft life. It's basically be somebody that your whole life is dependent of another dude, which is really odd. But I always found it interesting how those same women who are willing to submit themselves to a man like that and have them pay for everything are also the same ones who get really touchy when a man expects some sort of sexual favors for that deal. If they're willing to fly you out private, they're willing to buy you all these Hermes, all these shoes and bags, but then they have the suggestion to you that, hey, why don't you give me a blowjob every day? Or why don't, I want to fuck now? Suddenly they're doing too much. Suddenly they're being creepy. Suddenly they're stepping over the line. It's like, wouldn't you expect that to be a regular kind of request or regular exchange from people who are complicit in that sort of lifestyle? You would expect that to be true, wouldn't you? But who knows? We just move on for that one. Mr. Combs, who started Bad Boy in 1993, became one of the most powerful and successful figures in hip-hop industry, working with stars like Notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, helping to transform rap music and culture into a global pop phenomenon and a major business. Still, his rise to fame has been dotted with allegations of violence, including that he and his bodyguards beat a rival music executive, Steve Stout, with a champagne bottle and other items. Now, one thing I have to say is this. I think it is kind of true. I kind of understand why people in media now are finding it very hard to talk about this, because now we've seen with some level of evidence and certainty that Diddy is quite a dangerous person, and not just to women. He's dangerous overall. He's willing to fight. Like, allegedly had a scrap with J. Cole, allegedly had some sort of altercation with Drake. Obviously, there's the connection with him and Tupac's death. Then there's the fucking Kid Cudi incident blowing up his car. Like, he's willing to actually do stuff to people. And he's definitely got the means to do it. And he's clearly got the people around him that are willing to crash out to please him. So I could understand why some people are a bit, you know what, I'm not willing to actually talk about this because this guy is actually dangerous behind the scenes. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Young Thug. When Young Thug was coming up, that was, I think even Charlamagne said it once when they interviewed him first. He was like, I think Charlamagne said, like, I know people from Atlanta. I've got people connected to the streets or whatnot. I think it's something along those kind of lines. And he was basically saying, hey, don't get fooled by this guy in skirts and shit. Young Thug is really like, he's really about that life. Like, he's really putting up numbers in the streets. Like, he's got bodies, and everyone was caught thinking, nah, come on, that can't be true. But then the more his career progressed, and some people started to come out with stories, and you hear some of his lyrics and stuff, you're like, oh, Young Thug's actually about this life. So it made sense why he carried himself a certain way, and why people had a certain kind of fear and respect about Young Thug, right? And I think the same goes for Diddy. For a long period of time, people always watch their words around him. They really walk over eggshells when it comes to Diddy. And even something as soft as like his ongoing beef with Mace. Him and Mace have this ongoing dispute about the lack of, royalties from some of his records and stuff. And no one really wants to touch that subject. Everyone's a bit like scared to really talk about it, because they know what Diddy can actually do. Like, he's really about that life. So I can understand some of the trepidation around it, but I just think when it comes to abuse of women, and it comes to like physical abuse, and it comes to stuff like rape, you really owe it to yourself to say something. If the victim themselves can't speak because they're in a situation and they're scared for their lives and they're just in kind of, self-preservation mode in that respect, then fair. But as a man or whatever in that situation, you have the responsibility, the moral responsibility, principled responsibility to speak up and say something. Like, you can't not say something, especially even if that's your friend. I think like you have to say something. Like, surely there has to be, I think all men should have this, all men should have like a list of things that if their friends did, you have to kind of blacklist them. I know there's I'm not one to like go out there and like publicly chastise your friend that did something wrong. I think that's really unbecoming and whatever, to kind of publicly chastise your friend, especially if the crowd or if the mob is begging you to do so. Like, they can go fuck themselves. But as a friend, personally, you should have a list of things that if a friend did, it's kind of X, it's done. They can never be your friend again. And I think rape should be far up down that list. That should be up. That should maybe be 1 or 2 on the list of things. If somebody does something like, I would even go as far as saying that I could probably forgive a friend for a murder before I could forgive a rape. Because a murder could happen off the back of you maybe trying to get vengeance for someone killing a member of your own family. Do you know what I mean? And that's, in my opinion, that's completely justified. Or if that person fucking, God forbid, diddled a member of your family and you went to go and, take them out. That I could forgive and understand. About rape, there's no understanding, there's no explanation that can make that justifiable. So if you had to be that person, you have to be like, yeah, I'm going to excommunicate you. If you do rape, you're done to me. Or if someone does rape, I have to speak up. And the fact that they don't speak up is really deplorable, to be fair. And the thing that's really disgusting about it is that it puts so many other people at risk. That's what it does. So many people become more at risk because of people's unwillingness to speak up about these issues. That's a really sad bit about this whole thing. But hey, we continue here. Last thing to talk about here, even with the statement, however, the damage to Mr. Combs' reputation and legacy has been substantial. In the days since Ventura's suit has been filed, past allegations of violence and abuse have resurfaced, and various musicians have publicly signaled their support for Cassie. In a statement, Douglas Wigdor, a lawyer for Cassie, said, "I am very proud of Cassie for having the strength to go public with her lawsuit. She ought to be commended for doing so." Of course, she deserves all the credit. Imagine holding on to that for so long, because you have to give her credit too. She hasn't come out and said anything about Diddy beforehand. She didn't go on the podcast tour. She's not on the Shade Room. She's nowhere. She completely excommunicated herself and that she went the complete opposite way. She found herself a nice, well-to-do white guy. They've settled down. They're married. They've got 2 kids. She went the complete opposite of hip-hop. She doesn't want anything to do with it whatsoever, clearly, and I understand why, because it's been completely tainted to her. So the fact that she now decided at this moment in time, where it seems like she's at peace the most, to bring all this up again, and even if it's monetarily going to be beneficial, the emotions about it still are going to be quite hard to fucking contribute and to kind of, to work around, because you're digging this all up again and you're the one that went through it, so it's never going to leave. It doesn't matter how much money you get. People always talk about the money thing, but it's like, bro, if you've been raped, like, no amount of money could ever make that okay. So it's still going to be quite hurtful. But the fact that she was willing to do it and risk people, talking about her in a weird way again, or defending him, says a big deal about her. So big up her. She's got bigger balls than a lot of men in the industry, and it's good to see that she got the resolution that she needed. And to me, this settlement is definitely an admission of guilt, in my opinion. 100% an admission of guilt, from my humble opinion, personally. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? So moving on from that one, let's talk about the A$AP Rocky PUMA collection. Now, it's an interesting one, because when it was originally announced, let me actually get the article up. But when it was originally announced, I had the feeling that it was a more substantial agreement, like, because obviously Puma's got a long relationship with Rihanna, and obviously them being together now, maybe she kind of brought him in, or they went to work with him anyway. It kind of felt like they went to make a whole thing, they went to flesh it out. But I guess with the Formula One being in Las Vegas, they went to probably take advantage of that and kind of strike while the iron's hot and get something going out there in the time being. So maybe this kind of explains why this looks so bad, because it was rushed. Because I think it was announced, the Puma deal might have been announced in September. Let's say for, let's just say, to be charitable, that it was actually agreed, or they was actually started working on the collection in July. It's still not a lot of time to put together a good first collection with all the resources Puma has, whatever it may be. It's not the longest amount of time to actually put something decent out there. So that might explain why this shit looks so fucking terrible. Because I saw this and I thought to myself, you know what? It probably would have been better if you didn't do anything, if you would have waited out the time properly and actually waited to put it out properly. Because what I've seen so far, it just beggars belief that this was actually gone through some level of quality control, and they thought this was actually the one that was going to put Puma back on the map and actually make it a culturally relevant brand, because that's what basically they want, right? Because I'm sure Puma's sales aren't bad. I'm sure they do fairly well, but in terms of being culturally relevant, they're not really there, right? No one really talks about Puma in that regard. So when you collaborate with somebody like an A$AP Rocky or even a Rihanna, you're not doing it purely for sales. You're doing it a lot for like cultural cachet. You want the kids who buy all the hyped sneakers, all the kids that buy all the hyped limited edition brands out there. You want them to spend some of their money with Puma. And for me, I just don't think this is what is going to do it. The best thing about this collaboration is the gloves. The best thing about the collaboration is the gloves, for sure, in my opinion. I think the gloves are the best thing about it, but the gloves aren't going to be enough to save Puma, because this shit looks terrible. You've got this face mask or this balaclava thing with holes in it, which looks very dated. It kind of reminds me of like Yeezy season 1 and 2, right? Those looks with the holes on the sweatshirt and stuff. But again, even the color, even the fucking color, this beige creamy color, again, is very reminiscent of early Yeezy. But again, that whole thing is completely dead. That's been and gone. And why is it all holy? Why has it got all rips and holes all over it? Why not just make this balaclava, this face mask thing, why not just make it normal without all the holes? And I think it's got holes in it, and it's also been done to look like it's been put inside out. Why not just make it normally with high quality materials without all the faux distressing, and maybe take off the label or whatever it may be, or just make it about the holes? Why do you have to have all this kind of ripped bits on it? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It looks absolutely disgusting. Then you got some more pictures here of Rocky doing the collection lookbook pictures. Again, I guess in New York, underneath the overpass with his vintage car and shit. It just, none of it makes sense or matches. You're not going to see anybody in Harlem wearing this stuff voluntarily. If you see anybody in New York wearing this stuff, they've definitely been seeded. 100% they've been seeded, or they've got a stylist friend, because this stuff is pants. Maybe the shoes are okay. I think these part of the collection, these kind of look like, not Sperry-Dons, but I forgot the model. There's a particular model that I'm thinking of. It's like a Stussy model that they put out a while back. These kind of look like those same Nike Stussy models from a while back. There's something about them. But the jeans, oh my God, the jeans. Maybe some of the most rancid things I've seen in my life. If you're not seeing these visually, they've got an outline of the Puma logo on the crotch area. So you know that whole, because I don't know about you guys, but I never actually liked those jeans from Bape or from who was it, from Billionaire's Boys Club and shit. That era of putting the logo on the front of your crotch, I personally thought it was terrible. I always thought it was terrible. Let me see if I can find it. It's like a Bape's, I think it's like Bape's for the jeans. Remember, it's a bathing ape, but they had the logo on the crotch. And I remember Billionaire's Boys Club also had it. Billionaire Boys. Oh, was it ice cream? Yeah, maybe it was ice cream. I think it was Billionaires. Sorry, let's see. Billionaires. Let me see if I can find it here. Billionaire Boys Club ice cream jeans. Let's see if I can find these, because I remember these coming out back in the day, and that's the first time I remember seeing those logos. Yeah, there we go, on the crotch. So as you can see here on this screen, that's the first time I remember seeing these crazy big logos on the crotch from Billionaire's Boy Club, right? This is Pharrell's brand. If you remember the lore actually behind it, the reason why early BBC was really good, Billionaire Boys Club, was because Nigo made it. Nigo, Pharrell and Ice Cream. Nigo, Pharrell and Skate Thing, the graphic designer for back in the day, actually made this brand, as a trio. And then, of course, Pharrell fronted it. That was during the infancy of their relationship. But then, when Nigo stepped away from designing and Skate Thing stopped designing, and it became more of a Pharrell thing in-house, that's when it got really terrible, personally. Being a Boys Club was usually, I think, if I'm mistaken, was the overarching brand. And then Ice Cream was the skate team. You had Ice Cream shoes, whatever, you had a skate team, all that sort of stuff. But I never liked this whole crotch logo thing. I thought it always looked really gaudy and really terrible. And Bape also did it, right? Bape also had the same thing. They had, yeah, exactly. See, Bape also had the same thing. They had a star. They had these stars. They had it on the front and whatever. I never liked these logos. I thought they always look fucking terrible, in my personal humble opinion. So when I saw these jeans from Rocky, I thought, oh my God, they're disgusting. But they're made even more disgusting because these look like, I don't know, they look like workman's jeans or workman pants that have been made into a denim material with the logo on top of it. So you've got this gaudy outline of the Puma logo on the crotch that's too big, right? It's too big. It's spread across the entire crotch. It's also not centered, if that makes sense. Maybe it's just me, but it doesn't look like it's centered. It looks like it needs to be nudged to the right a little bit. Maybe it's because of the tail, how it looks, but maybe, what would actually work better? Maybe the logo or the actual spelling of Puma, Puma, in that old school blocky font might actually look better because it's 4 words, it's 4 letters, right? You can actually have 2 letters on this side, 2 letters on that side. It actually might balance it out better than the logo because the logo is a little bit spread, it's a bit thin here and spread there. So it kind of doesn't look like it's been positioned correctly. It kind of looks like it's kind of leaning too much to the left, not to the right. So I hate that. Hate the jacket. Hate that fucking balaclava thing. The gloves are the best thing in the entire collection. One more image here, and then you also got another balaclava and a racing jacket. So if you actually look at the collection in close up, it actually looks worse than what it's showing, because this is the whole entire thing, by the way, right? I think there's maybe a tracksuit as well included that's not featured on here, but this is the entire thing. And to me, it doesn't even bother putting out. Like, it's that bad. It's legitimately maybe the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's really odd because I think it's Fashion Roadman actually said it on fucking Twitter the other day. Like, considering how well A$AP Rocky dresses, this is really bad collection. And it makes me wonder sometimes, maybe if you dress terribly, or you're very formulaic or very formulaic, or no, you've got some sort of uniform as how you dress, like similar to like of Rick Owens, right? He always dresses the same. JW Anderson, another one, dresses the same. Tom Ford had particular, they've got a particular way that they dress, but they don't actually wear. Like, the only one I can think of who actually wears outfits and goes crazy is Marc Jacobs, right? He's actually somebody that puts a lot of thought into his outfits. He's always wearing different brands and shit, and he's one of the best designers of all time. But I think the majority of designers, they have this tendency to kind of have a uniform that they kind of abide by. Even you see him at the moment now, walking around the world with barefooted and stuff, but he's basically wearing the same garments again and again. The oversized t-shirts, the nice loose pants, the bare feet, or the close to, no fucking sole unit on the feet, the sock thing that he's wearing, same sort of thing. But maybe with Rocky, the fact that he's into so many designers, and he obviously loves clothes and he likes to dress and likes to, put fucking looks together. Maybe all of that there's too much creativity going into his looks and brain power, that it makes sense why when he's then asked to make his own collection, it's really hard to make something original, new, or cool, or even nice looking, because of all that kind of creative energy is going into your outfits. Maybe that's the case. Or maybe it's the case that he just isn't a designer, which is also pretty odd, right? To think of somebody that's that connected to clothes, who's that instrumental in like hyping up clothes and being somebody that people see as maybe a leader in that regard, especially when it comes to certain items and brands, and being an ambassador to all these high level, high fashion brands and a muse, blah, 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 to have no ability to like what you like in the high fashion world and then have ability to kind of synthesize into a collection is really bizarre to me. I just can't imagine how this is possible. Like, how can you be a Loewe ambassador, Bottega ambassador, Dior ambassador, all this sort of shit? The only thing I don't think he hasn't been embraced by is maybe Balenciaga. Maybe he doesn't like it. But it's interesting how all those kind of great brands, great designers, all those collaborations he's done, all the magazine covers, all the shoots, and he just hasn't been able to. He hasn't been able to do this. Like, why? How? How? How is this possible? Because this stuff just looks absolutely terrible to me, and I can't understand why anybody would wear it. Personally, it just looks gash. Like even this hat, like all of this stuff looks so dated. The hat with the, you know, with all the rips and the patches and all the burn stuff, it just looks like something from a few years ago. The graphic design on this long sleeve top with the connecting gloves on it is very dated, right? This kind of what Y2K inspired flame type of stuff is already kind of gone and already pastiche. If anything, this Formula One top looks like something Boiler Room would make. This looks like Boiler Room or Teletech. If you know the promoters here in the UK who put on a lot of really cool techno parties and stuff, they have a particular aesthetic, and this kind of looks like something like a Teletech will put together, yeah, or maybe a Tech Couture, or like I said, a fucking Boiler Room. This is definitely a collection that they put together for their fucking fans to wear as club merch. And then you got these denim shorts with this, I don't know, denim shorts with this tartan patch on the front. I don't know what this is meant to be. Is this meant to be like a some sort of handkerchief that you can wipe your hands when you're working on your fucking truck, right? When you got your fucking hootie daddies on or whatever they're called, right? You got your fucking jean jorts skirt things on, and then you wipe the oil from all the fucking stuff they've been working on this blanket thing. Tartan thing is odd. The gloves are quite cool, but even the gloves, they look like goalie gloves. They don't even look like racing gloves. They look a bit too thick to be gloves that you'd wear if you were going to drive a car and stuff. There's too much padding, too much space in them. Even the gloves don't look like they've been well made, you know? Maybe it's just me. They're not taut enough, you know, to wear on a daily basis. They just look too gigantic. And then you've got this random Yeezy-inspired balaclava with what looks like to be like a keychain from a car keys or something. Like, what is that? It just doesn't make any sense. It looks fucking terrible. Really, some of the worst stuff I've seen. And it's unfortunate because I'm a big fan of Rocky. And I think, you know, it's unfortunate that he hasn't been able to kind of... This also might explain, This also might explain why Rocky has never really put out his own collection. Maybe he knows deep down he's not that guy, because it's something that you don't see too often. Someone that dresses well, who has no ability to design. I don't mean design for collection, but just to put out stuff that they might like, because there's certain people out there who've got great style, who have maybe holes in their wardrobe, and then they use an opportunity to have a collab to fill those holes. So maybe they'll say, hey, I always wanted a jean jacket that fit a particular way. I always wanted a leather trench coat that looked a particular way. I always wanted pants that sat a particular way. I always wanted hats that look like... You just have these holes in your regular wardrobe. You want to fill them, and then you have the opportunity comes along where you have the opportunity to collaborate with a big brand like PUMA. They have all the resources in production and manufacturing to get the job done. So all you have to do is basically just figure out the things that you're missing and then kind of get it done. And then you say, you know what? Well, you know, I've always wanted like a really nice quality Coach jacket, and you make one with Puma that's got all the things that you like. Maybe it's got an elasticated bottom. Maybe it's got, you know, zips instead of snap buttons. Maybe the snap buttons are made high quality or a particular type of steel or a particular type of metal finish. Maybe there's a logo on the back. Maybe it's thermal lined. Maybe it's Gore-Tex. Whatever it may be, you figure out things. But I just can't think of why you'd want this. But maybe I've just said it. Maybe I figured it out there, just speaking aloud. Maybe Rocky has so many clothes, he doesn't have any holes in his wardrobe. It's almost impossible for him to make something because he's got too much things. You know, he's got too many options in his, you know, wardrobe, because you can imagine his wardrobe is probably stacked. It's hard to figure out holes because he's got everything that he wants, and if he doesn't have it, he can just go out and buy it. So maybe that's the reason why the collection is so horrible, because he generally doesn't have a hole in his wardrobe, because he has legitimately unlimited resources, especially between him and Rihanna, or just him on his own, especially with his connections and the fact that he's one of the only few hip-hop artists that have been embraced by the high fashion world and shit. He's probably got he's probably got a pool that could rival some of the best girlies out there. So maybe that's the reason why the stuff just isn't hitting. But for me, it looks fucking terrible. It looks fucking gash. And I hate every single thing about it. The most offensive thing for me is definitely the jeans. The jeans might be the most offensive thing. They kind of look like carpenter pants. They also look like workwear pants, construction guy, bin guy type of pants with the stripes on the middle here. I don't know what these little bits of fabric loose on their sides are meant to be. Maybe you can tighten them up and kind of make them, maybe they've got some sort of elastic, or you can pull them in or something. I don't really know. The denim finish look thing is horrendous. The label is horrendous. Maybe it's a zip actually. Maybe you can zip them off. Maybe they're zipped off. Maybe you can zip them here and make them to shorts, or zip them here and make them into jorts. I don't really know. The logo there is terrible. The logo on the fucking crotch is horrendous. I hate every single thing about this. Legitimately one of the worst things I have seen in my entire life. Honestly is shocking. And yeah, man, I'm surprised that he put this out, but what can you do? Maybe the bag was was so fat he couldn't turn it down. The bag was so fat, it was like, you know what, let me just put this out there and hope the fans are okay with it, because the bag was just too fucking fat. Maybe that's the whole point of it. I'm not really too sure, but it looks absolutely shocking, and I don't think anybody can make this stuff look good. Not even Rocky. Even Rocky couldn't make this stuff look good. And again, the best thing about it is the gloves, but I don't think even him in his infinite wisdom could not make this stuff look good. I swear to God he couldn't, because it just looks so shocking. Let's see some more pictures here, courtesy of Over and Under. You've got a picture of him standing in front of his yellow Hummer. He's actually made that Hummer look kind of cool, to be fair, because I always think Hummers look kind of gaudy and a little bit too OTT, but he actually drives that Hummer like a daily driver. I'm sure he probably got it for free anyway, but he actually makes that Hummer look really cool. I'm not sure if it's an EV Hummer. I'm not too sure if it's the electric version, but regardless, he loves that yellow bumblebee looking Hummer thing that he has. So that's him standing in front of the Hummer, and again wearing those jeans. Okay, so those straps I was talking about, it looks like from this picture here, those straps are Velcro, so you can kind of cinch the jeans. They're even worse. They look like Velcro straps, so you can kind of cinch the trousers and make them a bit cinched. Like, why would you want to wear denim jeans that have cinches just underneath your bum and across your, like, why would you want to cinch the jeans here and there? Awful. Again, the shoes look decent. They're kind of Eastern European inspired. If you have an Eastern European community where you live, you would have known there was a particular type of Puma or Lonsdale shoes that all those Eastern European dolls used to love, and these look like the same ones. They're kind of really slow. They've got kind of astroturfy grip on the outside, and they've got this like strap that you can kind of tighten on top of them. So that's how they basically look. Again, absolutely gaudy and disgusting. That jacket is okay, but again, the logo, the color, it looks fucking awful. He's got some sort of like pearly, bejeweled face mask thing going on over there. Game breed. Take the Hummer to Tune Town. What? To Tune Wheels. The glove, yeah, like I said, the gloves are the best thing about it, but I think the gloves are they look like goalie gloves. Maybe these black ones, they need to be a little bit more slivette, whatever that fucking word is. They need to kind of fit a little bit closer to the skin, like mechanic gloves or something. They look a little bit too chunky for me. That's the only thing I don't like about them personally. But the gloves are probably the best thing about the entire collection. This long sleeve thing with the gloves connected, missed me with that shit. Again, very, very dated, very whatever. What was that French brand that existed for a while? That had that top with the half moon crescent thing. It kind of reminds me of that, but that's kind of been and gone, that whole thing. And obviously Balenciaga is kind of synonymous with that look now, with the shirt that connects to a glove thing. But again, I'm not a fan of those. And then we also got here, come on, move on. And then we've got, yeah, the face mask. Like, yeah, you can miss me with all this shit. I hate all of it. I think it looks horrendous. But I'll be surprised if maybe it actually sells out. If this actually sells out, then it's going to really do me for a loop if this actually does end up selling out. But yeah, for me, I don't like any of it. I think it looks all terrible. The shoes here don't look too bad. Those shoes on that picture actually look quite cool. Let me actually zoom into those shoes. Those shoes look quite cool. So maybe the shoes and the gloves, I could probably have. The sneakers here look really interesting. Like, it's almost like is that a sock or sneaker? I don't really know. It looks like a sock, but it could be actually it's actually a sneaker. It's actually a really thin sock looking sneaker that looks really futuristic and cool. Maybe it's a slipper or something, but these look really cool. I like the way that these look. I'm not gonna lie. Oh look, he's putting his middle finger up. It's so edgy, hardcore. Guy, you're in your 30s, man. Allow it, bro. Middle finger, being like, come on, bro, come on. Again, not for me. Anyway, that has been the AgostinhoZinga Show, episode number 726. Thanks so much for tuning in. Been a pleasure to have your company, as per usual. If you've enjoyed the live show, if you've enjoyed the podcast, whatever you've enjoyed, please make sure that you let me know via the links that are going to be available in the description. Links to my socials, link to the Patreon, all that good stuff. You can there find it. If you're listening to this via the podcast app, please make sure if you listen to the podcast app that you do leave me a 5-star review on the podcast platforms. That'd be greatly appreciated. So people can find this stream or find the podcast and like it as much as you do. And if you're listening to this with the audio application, you will hear my tune today playing underneath my voice. If you're not listening to this via the audio side of things, what are you doing? Make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast if you can to see my tune of the day. But if you're watching this via live stream only on YouTube, this will fade to black, and I'll see you guys again another time. But for now, take care, everybody. Peace out. Thank you for joining.